from the oldest city in the USA, St. Augustine tonight, with our guests, Lisa Lockhart, J.B. Scott and Danny Gottlieb, John Valdez, and musical guest, UNF Jazz Combo, comic relief, Emily Penkala, with your host, Jorge Rivera.
We've got two things beforehand here. Number one, Laura O'Neill with the Art Box is here. This is a painting that was in her place at the Art Box. And we have Stephanie Fox. Stephanie's down here. This is Stephanie right here in this black dress. This is Rod's bar at his house, and it's painted by Harry McCormick, who's in our audience tonight. And Harry's sitting right here.
He was also a guest on one of our early shows.
So last week, Stephanie's husband, Don, bought this painting for her as a gift. And so we wanted to just recognize the Art Box and Stephanie. So a round of applause, if you would, please, for that. Awesome. All right. So you just want to give that to her? Yep. Awesome.
And I am going to write paid on this.
It was paid.
This was a wonderful collaboration of getting artists connected with galleries and models, and it was just a wonderful collaboration. So thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Okay. Secondarily, everybody at your table has a miniature version of this. Okay? This is a keepsake for you to take home with you. But in addition to that, at intermission tonight, you can take it with you to the bar and you'll get a free serving of popcorn when you buy your drink. Okay? All right, so just wanted to make everybody aware of that. Okay? In addition, we have a birthday cake. Okay? We have a birthday cake which is going to come out here momentarily because in tonight's audience we have Cheryl Ludke, Joan Hecht, and John Becara, who all are celebrating birthdays. Okay? So as enticement for you to stay for the duration of the show, when you leave tonight, please stop by the bar and you can get a piece of birthday cake on your way out the door. Okay? All right? So happy birthday to everybody. So let's sing.
Hey, use your funnels. Hey, I got my funnel. Do you have yours? Here we go. Wait. Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. There it is. Happy birthday, Cheryl, Joan, and John. Happy birthday to you. Yeah, baby. So have your little piece of cake. I'm going to remove this so we can start the show in 1 minute. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. We want to thank the Art Box. We want to thank Stephanie. We want to thank all the people involved. Harry McCormick, who actually painted that. As you know, Harry is starting to paint more locally. Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. And sometimes I speak so loud my ears ring, I don't know if I'm projecting. So we want to thank everybody. Also, Cheryl Ludke, Joan Hecht, John Becara. I believe Cheryl Ludke, her mother fell and broke her pelvis. And so she's having an emergency, I heard. So, but I think Joan and John are here. And I guess Cheryl will see this eventually on YouTube, that we're wishing her mother a speedy recovery and a happy birthday. So, we're going to start the show in about 3 minutes.
And now, live, coming to you from beautiful downtown St. Augustine, it's the St. Augustine Tonight Show with your host, the one and only, Jorge Rivera.
boom, huh? I love that drum roll. Every time I make a joke, boom, we kill it. That's it. Hey, as always, I want to thank you all. It's a packed house. I'm always so flattered that you come here to watch this show. You could be home watching this wonderful news. See, as the end of the world gets closer and closer. So why not be here, yes? I also want to thank the Corazon, Flowers by Shirley, once I went killing it, Aramac, Bakersville, Sweet City Cupcakes. I mean, there's so many people involved with this show that it makes it very stressful, but also gives it a quality that we wouldn't have if we weren't stressed out. That's the way I see it, you know. So for that, I thank the gods, yes. So, you know, watching the news, I was watching, as we were talking about this coronavirus thing, you know, they keep shutting countries and borders and universities. So my opinion is, yeah, there is a problem, but I sometimes think that panic does more damage sometimes than the problem itself. So I think people have to be a little level-headed and, you know, think, not take risks, but listen to the scientists, and we'll be fine, we'll be fine. They found a hole in Mars. No, it's not golf. I'm sorry for any golfers out there. They found a big hole in Mars. One of the satellites, one of the things speeding around Mars saw it. It looks like a cavern. It could be a man's cave, a Martian man cave. We don't know. But they found a hole, and so now they're going to try to see if one of the rovers, the things they're sending in the next couple of years, can actually see how close they can get to that hole or that cave without falling inside. I saw this wonderful little piece of news. It was these two girlfriends. They've been girlfriends for 17 years. Best of friends, they get so along. Well, last month they found out they were sisters. That's what DNA does. They're sisters. And wow, that must be so strange after 17 years. News on the electric world, Tesla just sold its 1 million vehicle. Let's give Elon a hand. I like Elon, He's eccentric, but that's what makes him special. Also in the news with Tesla, they're going into the car insurance business. And so in about 2 months, they'll have their own insurance company for cars. What makes it amazing is they're going to be hard to beat because all their cars have these computers that know exactly how you drive. They've been collecting data for about 8 years. They know how often you brake, how fast you go. So this is going to be amazing. And this guy just doesn't stop making money. It's just crazy. Another thing that I found really interesting, in Gainesville, his parents live in St. Augustine. He's a bike advocate, you know, a guy who rides his bike. He's a guy who uses his bike a lot, rides a lot. And he went by this home about 3 times in his bike, and that home was being burglarized. And so when the police went to look into Google information on devices in the area, they saw that him with his phone went by 3 times. He's a suspect. There's a warrant for his arrest. Now, this same guy, when they told him a couple years ago when iPhone wouldn't give out the information and said, no, you can't have it, he said, why should you have a problem with that? I mean, you didn't do anything wrong. So his parents in St. Augustine got a lawyer. The lawyer went into it. Took him, 6-8 months before he could convince the police that he's not a burglar, you know. And so other data proved this point, and so he's still a free man. But, you know, it's scary now. We carry all this, we're now open books. We have really no privacy. And so that is always something a little bit crazy. And so like someone once said, never criticize anyone until you've walked a mile in their shoes. Now what's wonderful about that is you're a mile away, you can criticize him, you won't get smacked, and you're wearing his shoes. Can't get any better than that. Can't get any better than that. So now I'm going to leave you with our musical guest. It's a mouthful. It's the UNF Jazz Ensemble 1 Jazz Combo. Here they are. with our guest. Be right back.
Hi, my name's Dana. I own Sweet City Cupcakes, and we're located at 233 West King Street. We specialize in custom cakes and cupcakes. We use fresh and local ingredients and bake fresh daily. Each of our cupcakes is decorated with a unique look to complement the flavor. We have signature cupcakes such as the Marilyn, the Elvis, the I Love Lucy. We have a unique vintage look. Stop in and say hello. Have a cup of coffee and a delicious cupcake. Even better yet, take a box home to share with the family.
Back, ladies and gentlemen. That was a wonderful little jazz trio there. I love that kind of music. It just sets such a nice mood. I want to make a little announcement before that. You know, that band was sponsored by Bernadette Rivelle, and you all had this little thing here. Yeah. For a consultation. She's a brand and image maker. So, yeah, if you feel that the consultation is free, and so talk to her. She's amazing. I've seen some of her work, and I'm very, very impressed. And so I'm here with my first guest of the evening, Lisa Lockhart. And Lisa is in the world of opera, soprano, and maybe some of you have seen her with the First Coast Opera here in St. Augustine. We are so lucky in this town to have so much culture for such a little town. It's really incredible. 15,000 residents basically make this the city itself, and that we have ballet, that we have opera, and our own orchestra, and it just goes on, and poets and everything else. It's just it's magical. It's magical, and she's one of those people that add to the magic here. So, Lisa, you grew up in Maryland? You would have to say.
I did. I grew up in a town called Silver Spring, Maryland.
Oh, look at that.
Very close to D.C.
Uh-huh.
My dad worked at the National Board of Education in D.C., so that's why we moved there from upstate New York, where I was born.
All right.
Yeah.
And now, when you were going to school, when you were like a junior high school, did you gravitate to this art form of opera?
Well, I always liked music. I think the pivotal moment for me, I was a little girl, and my dad had a very close friend. I called him my uncle, but he wasn't my uncle by blood. But he had a very close friend, Ted Ross. I don't know if you've heard of him. He played the lion in The Wiz on Broadway, the original production.
Oh, wow.
And he was also in the movie with Diana Ross and Michael Jackson.
Oh, wow.
So when I was a little girl, my dad took me to see that show on Broadway, to see my Uncle Ted. And I got to go backstage and meet all the stars. Stephanie Mills was playing Dorothy. I don't know if some of you know who she is.
Wow.
So that made a huge impression on me at a young age.
A lot of people don't realize those impressions for young people.
Absolutely.
It's so powerful.
Yes.
Powerful.
So, I got the album. I learned all the songs. I still know every word of every song.
Because you also liked musical theater.
I love musical theater. I really love almost every type of music, as long as it's done, with passion. I'll listen to almost anything. I don't know if I'm good at singing everything, but I think I'm pretty good at opera, and I'm pretty good at musical theater. I don't try to sing rock and roll or anything like that.
But when you got to high school, that's when you started really discovering what your voice could do?
So I joined the chorus, and I had a great chorus teacher. Oh my gosh, why is his name escaping me right now? It'll come to me. Okay. But my chorus teacher was an opera fan. I didn't know anything about it, and he just thought I had a natural voice for it. Myself and one other girl that was in the chorus with me, so he put us together. And we sang a duet from The Marriage of Figaro.
Oh,
the famous letter duet, and which is funny because we just did at First Coast Opera. We just did Marriage of Figaro last season, and I was in that. So it's a beautiful duet. So he taught it to us, and he spent a lot of time with me outside of rehearsal,
this is
helping me with my
young
voice.
People, though, this is not an easy piece.
No, but it was. Kids are like sponges. We don't know when we're kids how hard things are supposed to be, I think, a lot of times, until we get a little bit older and somebody says, you know, that's really hard, learning that Italian and all that stuff.
Yes,
you know?
because it's not even English, it's Italian.
Yeah, but...
You know. Yeah, I mean, so here you're going to sing a piece that is, musically it's challenging, and then it's in a foreign language, and it's like, you could do it.
But it was great. It was so much fun, and it really, you know, lit the spark for me. And then I decided I wanted to go to a music school. Being totally honest, my grades were not that great. I was really good in English and, you know, music, things like that. Wasn't so great in science and math and all that.
Square root of 2.
So I ended up going to a junior college, which I'm actually glad I did that.
Okay.
Because in a lot of ways, I got a more well-rounded education. I was able to take Shakespeare with the acting majors and dance company and all of those things.
Creating a foundation,
And
really.
I was in the operas and the musicals and all that. And then I went to the Boston Conservatory, which was amazing. But, you know, then they put you in you're an opera singer now, so you can't be in the musicals. You know, you just do the opera. But it was great. It was a wonderful education.
Now, you had told me that the Marriage of Figaro kept coming in your life.
Yes, I have quite a history with that opera. It's my favorite opera because I met my husband doing that opera. And unfortunately, my husband's not here tonight because he is supposed to be at opera rehearsal. We're doing an opera right now with First Coast Opera, so he's at rehearsal. But one summer, a girlfriend of mine and I didn't have anything to do. So we said, you know what, let's put on a production of The Marriage of Figaro. The whole thing, uncut. It's a long opera. I mean, nobody ever does it without cuts because it's, you know,
people show the full
it's
thing.
4 acts and it's very long. So we did the whole thing, no cuts, double cast. And I said, hey, you know, I'll sing and I'll also direct it. Why not? You know. And my friend, both of us should have been singing The Countess, but she had a heavier voice than me. She sang like Wagner and all that kind of stuff. So I said, okay, I'll sing Susanna, which is a little bit lighter soprano voice. But she's really the star of the thing. She's really a real comedian. And she marries Figaro in the opera. So we invited friends to come and audition for us, and she knew Dirk from some workshop they had done. So Dirk came to audition for the part of Figaro. And as soon as I saw him, I said, wow, that guy's cute. And she said, back off, he's got a girlfriend. I said, I didn't say I didn't wanted to marry the guy, I just said he was cute. So, you know, cut to about a year and a half later, and we're married.
Wow. Tell us how he proposed. You gotta listen to this. This is great.
So it was less than a year later, I was in another production of the opera, a professional production. I was singing The Countess. And I don't, if any of you are familiar with the opera, there's a really beautiful part at the end of the opera where the Count's been kind of fooling around the whole opera and chasing around all the other women in the castle, and he's caught red-handed at the end. And he's very apologetic, and he drops to one knee, and it's so beautiful.
What does he sing? Give
He
me a line.
says, Contessa perdono, where he's asking for forgiveness, and of course she forgives him, and all ends happily,
It's
right?
Mozart, yeah.
So, yes. So at the end of the production is closing night. We're doing our curtain calls, and the director came out and said, we have a very special announcement. And I didn't know what was happening, but all of my castmates started smiling at me and moving out of the way. And that section of the music started up, and Dirk came out on the stage with a ring. Oh, Lisa, please marry me.
Oh, my God.
Well, what can I say?
And you said no.
I mean, how could you say no to that?
It wasn't Verdi or Puccini, so it was Mozart.
Right.
He gets the girl. Which was you.
And we've gotten to do the opera again a couple of times together.
And you guys have been together how long now?
We've been married 23 years.
Wow.
So, yes, I was 5.
Yeah, you was 5. One of those children. So now...
Don't start doing that math in your head, Pete.
So now... You've sang with the New York Met, you've sang with so many. You also toured Europe with one of my favorites, Porky and Bess.
I've done quite a few tours to Europe. We went to Japan. We've been all over Canada.
The Europeans love pieces like Porky and Bess. And the
yes,
Japanese.
they do. They really do. And, you know, in Europe, going to the opera is more like how we go to the movies here. You know, I mean, everybody goes to the opera there, even kids, you know.
Yes.
So.
Yes, it's amazing. And so now... what brought you to St. Augustine? How did you come down?
Well, you know, it's kind of a long story. I'll try to give you the semi-short version. So, we were living in New York, well, northern New Jersey, right outside New York, and you know, and I had some health issues. I'm a cancer survivor, very proud of it. Thank you. Now, any of you that have been through anything like that, you know that it can not only an emotional drain and a physical drain, but it can be a very big financial drain.
Yes, our wonderful healthcare system.
So,
yes, I've heard about it.
So it drained us financially pretty much. So we ended up kind of, well, our house was, we wanted to get out of there anyway. So we didn't have the money to keep paying that huge mortgage.
Right.
I have a great mother-in-law here who was living here in St. Augustine. Speaking of other talented musicians in the family, she plays the oboe with the St. Augustine Orchestra and the band. She's here tonight. Hi, Mom. And she graciously invited us to come and be with her.
Okay.
So we all live together in this nice beach house in Treasure Beach. And we make a lot of noise with me singing and Dirk singing and her playing her oboe and the cat meowing. And
the cat meowing, yes. As the cat's going, what's going on?
The cat's name is Figaro.
Oh, could have guessed that one, huh? So was St. Augustine sort of a shock when you came in the, you know, you leave this very classical music, opera thirsty environment, and then you come here. And so that was 5 years ago?
6 years now.
6 years
yeah.
ago?
Well, you know, I was a little nervous because I thought, well, you know, when you live up there, you can just get up one morning and say, hey, you know what? I want to go audition for something. You
Right.
just get on the bus, go into the city, and there's something. There's a movie,
grab a backstage
there's, you know,
newspaper
something
and
to audition for. And I thought, you know, I'm going to come down here and there's just not going to be anything to do. But the more I've been here, the more I've found that it's such a vibrant artistic community here. We have First Coast Opera. I've sung with some of the choral groups here in town.
And San Filippo does stuff with Grace.
Yes. I've sung at the beautiful cathedral a couple times. I've got some great students that I'm working with. One of them's here. Hi, Laura.
You teach voice, yes? Young people
Yes.
too?
I have students from age 11 to, I don't even know how old my oldest student is. I think he's about 65, but I'm not asking him for ID, you know. But
and so your expertise so what do you see for the future?
Well, you know, there are definitely some opportunities here, but it's not like New York, you know, as you were saying.
Or Los Angeles.
But the more I've starting to get older, I realize that if the opportunities don't come to you, you have to make your own opportunities.
Yes.
You know, so I just form my own concerts. I mean, that's how I met Dirk, was putting together my Marriage of Figaro. So I've been very blessed that Kathy Vanderberg has invited me to do the opening headlining concert for the Romanza Festival this year.
Amazing. So what are you doing for the Romanza? What's going on?
So I've had this concept in my head for many years, and finally it's going to come to fruition. It's a group that I'm forming called Sposi Cantanti, or the Singing Spouses. So you see where this is going. So it's going to be Dirk and me, and then two other married couples that are all classically trained. Yes. One couple is coming from North Carolina. They've sung with the company before, with First Coast Opera. And then I have another couple. I promise you they're married, but one lives in Phoenix and one lives in Reno because they teach at universities.
Oh, okay.
But he's a tenor and she's a mezzo. So we've got two sopranos, two baritones, a tenor, and a mezzo.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. Do you know what you're going to sing?
Oh, well, we have quite an eclectic program.
Okay.
It's not just opera. We're going to do some Don Giovanni. We're going to do some musical theater, like Get Me to the Church on Time. It's all love-themed things.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
We do some operetta, like from The Gondoliers, When a Merry Maiden Marries, things like that. Also, there's a really talented 10-year-old violinist that's going to be joining us. She's going to play a prelude before the concert. Her name's Layla Warren. She is so talented. You have to come just to hear her.
This is in May. For the Romanza
Yes,
Festival.
May 1st. It's the
1st.
opening concert.
Okay.
Yes, and it's going to be at Ancient City Baptist Church.
Right. You had told me also that you lost your mother quite young.
I did.
And she was your biggest fan.
Yes, yes. My mom really supported me in everything that I did. I mean, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. And my dad. My dad's actually coming. He's 86 years old. He's coming for that concert in May.
Wow. She used to drive you to all those places?
She drove me to all of those crazy rehearsals, you know, hours away, just so I could be in the chorus of a musical, you know, just so I could get the experience.
She saw you now, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I know she's watching.
So great. It's great. You have a gig coming up at the Anchor Church, I guess it's going to be?
Yes. So First Coast Opera is doing this beautiful children's opera. It's for children of all ages, really. But I'm sure a lot of you know the story of The Little Prince.
Yes,
right?
One of my favorite books.
So it's a beautiful opera of the story of the Little Prince. And the composer, Rachel Portman, it's actually, the music is more cinematic than operatic because she wrote the film scores for a lot of famous movies like Cider House Rules and some of those movies. Okay. So it's very cinematic and very just broad, the music. I can't describe it better than that. Right. But we have a great children's chorus. Some of my students are in it.
I think the St. Augustine
the youth ensemble.
Yes.
The youth, help me out, Laura. What's it called? Thank you. Carrie's going to kill me. All right.
Yes.
Yes. So there are all these cool characters in it. You have the snake and the fox, and I'm the water that comes up out of the well.
Excuse me. Okay.
So, yes, I'm lobbying for a sparkly blue wig. I really hope I have a sparkly blue wig.
Oh, wow.
I haven't seen our costumes yet.
But that'll be great. I thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
We keep seeing and we want to say, who is that person? And now we know who you are. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And a little toast. Photographer wants to take a picture? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be back.
We opened up last year in January. Everything from the German farmer bread, the Schwarzwälder Flosserbrot. We have Jewish roots as well on my mother's side. So we do challah every Friday. That's available.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
We're here. I'm very, you know, J.B. Scott was here with his wife, Lisa Kelly, a couple of shows ago.
Yeah.
And they're a wonderful jazz couple. And she's a singer and he's a trumpet player. And of course, J.B. is very involved with the UNF Jazz program. And we have a really special guest. Danny Gottlieb. Has it Gottlieb?
Gottlieb, that's
Gottlieb?
it.
It's German, Gottlieb. I think it means God loves you or something like that. Yes. What a great name to have. Another last name I like is Lovejoy. I think that's a beautiful last name too. So this one, Danny here, let me see where I got this. You know, you're the only guest who had me have to pull some notes. You have...
Is that bad, huh?
Man, if you were a criminal, this is a rap sheet, my brother. I mean, you have been with so many people who influence you, what you learned under them. Mm-hmm. You have people who you toured with.
Right.
You people that you were part of their bands. You have, let Grandpa put on his glasses here a second. You were with Mel Lewis,
right,
who was a jazz drummer, 14 Grammy nominations. Mm-hmm. You were also studied under Morello, which is another, he was known for being
Brubeck.
part of the Brubeck quartet. You were also with Paul Desmond, another great alto saxophonist, American, also involved with Take 5 from Brubeck. If you're It's a number, you hear it, you know it right away. Gary Burton, the jazz vibranist. You were with the Metheny band.
Pat Metheny.
Yes, Metheny, and he's also an American jazz guitarist. You were with Mark Egan, the bassist. Also the Gil Evans Orchestra, Flora Purim, the Brazil jazz singer. You were with Moreira, the Brazilian jazz percussionist and drummer. You were with Stan Getz. You were with Manhattan Transfer, Carnegie Hall Orchestra, Bobby McFerrin Trio. I can go on and on and on with it. That was like, give me a break here. It's an amazing career. But did you get, did you discover the drum, or did the drum discover you?
It was very weird. I started, my mom, who's still with us at 97.
Oh, wow.
And lives in Jacksonville, which is how I came to the area.
Okay.
That's when I started teaching at UNF, she came down to the area. She was a violin player, and I started as a cello player for 8 years when I was a kid. And I was awful. I was the worst cello player ever. And sometimes...
We're very happy about that because he's a marvelous drummer.
Sometimes it's just, like if you're a parent, you see this with your kids, and when you're a kid, sometimes the career starts one place and takes a left turn. I found the drums, and the gentleman you mentioned, Joe Morello, that famous drummer who played with Dave Brubeck for so long, was teaching 5 minutes from my house, and I just happened to wander into this store, and when I was 15, in my second year of finding the drums, I could just do it. And he took me on as a student.
It was so natural for you.
And that led to a career. And the people that you mentioned, it was all, I lived in New York City for 20 years.
Right.
And as a freelance musician, you go from one group to another. And when you're in that circuit, people tend to call you. And New York, especially at that point, was a good a ground for coming in contact with so many musicians, and it was a great place to network. So that's how.
Wow. And so, I mean, drum is not. I've seen drummers like, this is a very basic set, and I've seen drummers you could barely see them behind the drums because they have so many parts to it. But how did you end up here in the Jacksonville and involved with the UNF program?
Well, there's a couple of funny twists to it, but again, I lived in New York. I was a traveler. I was a Europe guy. I would go to Europe all the time. One of the things that networking in New York would lead to was travel, and so I was on the road 200 to 250 days a year for 30 years.
Do you think Europeans have a better appreciation of jazz than we do as Americans?
There's more places to play. That's what I felt. There's an appreciation, and I used to work with some of the government. You ever hear they'll say the Berlin Radio Orchestra?
Right.
There's big bands in Europe, and I would get to play with a lot of the
Symphony.
They have jazz groups, especially in Germany. I used to go all the time. And I've lived in New York for so long. I was single forever. Met a wonderful woman living in Orlando. You want to move to Orlando? You want to be stepdad to 2 kids? Okay. So I'd had it, so I was ready to, my mother had given, is this kid ever going to marry anybody? And so we got married. We lived in Orlando for quite a while, and a job opened up at University of North Florida, and they allowed me to commute from Orlando back and forth, and they wanted me as a drum teacher.
Wow.
And it was something I really wanted to do. There was an amazing faculty with JB.
And how did you meet JB then?
Well, we knew each other as musicians, but also JB was the first graduate of the jazz department at the University of North Florida.
Wow.
And was well known for that, and the program, as we can talk about, was started by a gentleman named Rich Madison, who was a great jazz euphonium player, who was very, very well known. And my connection, even though it kind of took a left turn later in life, is my teacher, Joe Morello, had a group with Rich Madison. And when you're in high school, sometimes you audition for things. I didn't do a whole lot, but I auditioned for one thing, which was the Mid-East All-Star High School Jazz Band, and I got it.
What a strange name.
It was like a competition, and they flew me from New Jersey to it was at Duquesne University in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh. And you play with a band, and then they have a guest clinician. And who was the clinician? Rich Madison.
Wow.
Was the clinician who I met in high school, who changed my life. And years later, he starts the program in the jazz department at University of North Florida. And unfortunately, I never got to see him again in my adult life. But he was a mentor to JB. And that was a connection through Rich Madison that I was drawn to. I knew of it because it had such a good reputation as a great jazz school, and it was through Rich who I'd met as a kid, and that was my connection to that.
Did you already know him, sort of heard his name when you met him?
Oh yes, I knew of Danny. Was playing with Pat Metheny in the recordings, and I knew that of all the things that he had done, just reputation. But when he came and auditioned at UNF for the job, it was like, wow, we're getting him. Cool. And of course, I'm thinking selfishly. I'm thinking, wow, concerts, get to play with him. Concerts. Oh yeah, that's right. When we're teaching students too, I forgot. But no, it was. I mean, the wealth of the experience that he brings to the college. Again, we're talking about Rich Madison, who founded the program. I was fortunate to be in the first run of students.
Right.
And we were talking about that. It was back in 1986, I think. He started the program. In 1987, I came in as in the first group of students, and then the first graduate.
Wow.
So I get goosebumps thinking about it. I'm standing now in front of that band and these students, and I don't ever forget what I'm doing and who started it. And the folks that are around me. Danny walked into rehearsal today, and it was like, oh, it was Danny Gottlieb. And everyone's clapping, and he comes in, and then Jack, who was up here playing drums, he goes, since Danny is here, and you guys did this on the recording of the faculty groups, he says, can he play drums on this? I'm like, well, let me think. Yeah. And so
I played with the band today.
Yeah, he played with the band. So it's a neat thing. This program. It's 34 years, 34th, I think, is 33rd. I don't know, as I'm getting older.
34th. No, it makes sense. 86, 96.
I think so, yeah. And our jazz series brings in such notable artists every year to work with the jazz ensemble, to do 3-4 days of clinics, rehearsals, and then a concert culminates. What's amazing is our faculty are the same kind of people that are going out to other colleges doing exactly the same thing I'm doing, bringing it here.
Yeah.
So it's a tremendous program for that, as far as the things that we're offering for the students. Plus, the level of student is truly amazing.
Wow. I always feel that jazz musicians are almost like part of a religion. It's something so, because before we started the show, I was playing John Coltrane,
right? Yeah.
And I was watching you guys, and you guys were like,
we were trying to figure out.
I was playing along. I was like,
trying to figure out who was on the recording.
Right into the speaker. You didn't even know. It's just and you were just doing counts or whatever you guys were doing, and I was just shaking my head. These are jazz musicians.
Well, yes, and we just did a great show Thursday night with the incredible Wycliffe Gordon. And I know some folks in the audience were at that performance. They came up to me earlier and said something about it, and everyone comes up and they go, "Oh, you're doing such a great job," and I'm always saying, "But the students really played great." I mean, I know I'm conducting, but they're the ones that have to make it happen.
Yes,
they're the ones that have to take the instruction and then listen to the recordings and do their thing. And so I don't try to ever forget that aspect.
All right.
And Thursday night was tremendous because there was this tribute to Louis Armstrong.
Oh, wow.
And he was singing and doing some tunes he wrote for Pops. And the band was singing. I couldn't believe that. I mean, that was they'll probably not admit it because that's not cool, man. We're not supposed to be singing.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. It was truly amazing. As you heard the group up here playing, they were just
good.
swinging all night.
So young and so good at it. And so, Danny, what do you think is the most challenging thing to be a drummer in the whole genre of jazz?
That's an interesting question. Well, it's kind of like any artist, it depends on how you want to approach it, but for me, it's always been a series of learning and constantly expanding and constantly trying something different so that you don't remain stagnant.
Right.
And my approach is I always just wanted to keep going and see how far I could go.
Keep it fresh
all
the time.
And so we're talking about a genre, jazz is known as the great American, art form because it was an art form that was developed in this country.
Right.
And, from the horrible circumstances, but bringing everybody together at the turn of the century.
Right.
The first jazz recording, I know this because I teach the jazz course.
Give us a lesson, Danny, come on.
First jazz recording was done in 1917. So anything before 1917 is what we imagine it to be, because there was nothing recording.
There's nothing.
So when it was a new medium, the beginning when Louis Armstrong started in the 20s, all of that stuff was brand new and fresh and the first of its kind. So it's kind of exciting to study the lineage of where it all went and where it's continuing to go. Right. And that to me, so as a drummer, we have our favorites. Somebody will say, "What do you think of this person?" Or "Do you like Neil Peart?" Or "What did you think of this person?" And then or Buddy Rich. What do you think about Buddy Rich?
Buddy Rich, a great drummer.
And there's so many. It's just like any your first guest, as an opera singer. I'm sure you're studying all the lineage of great opera singers. The same as for all of us as musicians, studying the great history of the instrument.
Yes.
So when you think of Buddy Rich to study, it's not him as just one recording. It's his whole life. And every genre and every drummer. And I grew up in the 60s and rock and roll was there.
Yeah.
So JB teaches the rock and roll course. So, we all kind of cover different things. We're jazz musicians, but we're also aware of every other type of music. And to me, it's just a constant learning process. And I was thinking, when I was hearing you talk about Rich and the program, I had to sort of soul search in the beginning because I was never going to be a teacher. That was the last thing.
Last thing in
I
your
didn't.
mind.
I toured for 30 years. I was a student. I would go from. I like to get around older, famous people that I can learn from. And then when this and this opened up, and it was partly because of people like JB and the faculty at the University of North Florida there were performers. Everybody was a player. It wasn't just some academic thing.
Yes.
And I think the reason I hope I've been a good fit for the school is that I'm still continuing to be a professional. All of us, we all play. So we can bring the world of being a pro. I'm like a coach. I love to listen to JB's concerts and the drummers and Jack, for example. We can talk about things and I'll videotape the students and we'll kind of look at it and decide, is this working? Is this not working? How about this? And there's a lot of stuff they bring to us that we don't even know about. But your original question of what's the hardest thing, to me, it's just I love the process of studying. So it's not hard. It's just there's a lot of work to do, and that's the frustrating part. But we just keep going and do the best we can with it.
Yeah, and he mentioned the history and the folks that he listened to and studied and played with and worked with when he was young, and that's what this program was founded on.
Right.
Rich Madison's idea was the Great American Jazz Series, presenting jazz and great jazz artists to these students in a 3 to 4 or 5 day period. And so our Great American Jazz Series brings in 4, sometimes 5 artists a year, and they're in there for 3 to 5 days, and they're doing clinics, and they're doing exactly what Danny was saying, bringing the history. And our faculty comes to the clinics and hangs out. They're like, oh wow, so we pay homage to these great artists, but it's also bringing to the students this education, and then the ability to firsthand play with and work with, rehearse with,
the best,
make music with, make mistakes and get yelled at with, because those happen in clinics.
La crème de la crème.
They're doing this, playing along. It's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. No, do this, and then they learn.
Yes.
And then the next thing you hear them on the next performance or gig, wow, they're doing it. Like our last concert of the series is April 23rd. I think it's a Thursday, and it's our what I call JE1 plays the music of JE1. It's students within the program writing music, faculty members, students that have graduated, alumni, write music, and we perform our own music on this concert. Amazing. And that, to me, that's like the culmination of the year.
Right.
Is everything we've done, all these concerts, all these artists, all these clinicians,
Super
and all of a sudden,
Super Bowl.
Boom, they're writing this music.
Right.
From some of the things that they've heard from the artists that have been in there.
Yes.
Or the new music.
Yes.
That they did. A couple years ago, we had someone doing a boogaloo because we did something in one of the concerts. So it's very cool to watch the growth.
And of course someone once described jazz as revolution and evolution at the same time. Yeah. So
yes,
and I think that's what attracts. I want to thank you both. Amazing, man. Just keep making them. Send them out there.
Yeah.
As we need more jazz. We need more jazz. And we're going to have an intermission, and when we come back from intermission, they're going to play they're going to play up here. So we got a big treat.
Thank you very much.
Again, gentlemen,
it's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Always, JB. Thank you. Send my love to Lisa.
At St. Augustine Distillery, we're part of a new generation of American craft distillers. Family owned and operated, we are committed to making the best possible spirits using local agriculture. Our distillers make everything by hand, from mashing and blending to distilling and tasting each and every batch. We distill and bottle everything we sell, making sure that the spirits are just right before barreling and aging. Bottled by real people, we love showing our guests not only what we do, but why we do it. We're passionate about educating our guests to not only what goes into each bottle, but how to make the best possible cocktails. We love St. Augustine, and thanks to your purchases, we're able to give back to the community and help local organizations each and every day.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
St. Augustine Distillery, handmade with pride in the nation's oldest city.
And now, we're going to leave you once again with the UNF JE1 Jazz Combo. This time on the trumpet, Mr. J.B. Scott, and on the drums, Danny Gottlieb. Wow.
Josh Jonathan! Coming to back! Jack Miller, where's the Lord? And David!
Amazing, amazing. I mean, could be here all night. Not a bad idea. The bar's open, but I want to meet your name again, young man?
Josh Johnny.
Josh?
Johnny, yeah. Josh Johnny, yeah.
All right. Great to meet you. And you are?
Thomas Millivac.
Okay. And we know Donnie Gottlieb, and we know Mr. J.B. Scott, and the drummer who was replaced there temporarily is?
Jack, where are you?
Jack.
Jack Miller.
Jack must be getting, oh, there he is. I thought he was getting drunk at the bar. Come up here, Jack. Come up here, Jack. Want to see your face. We want to see your face, Jack. Yeah, he's finishing his master's degree, and he's a drummer. Yeah, find a little spot around here. Another, wow, you guys are amazing. I mean, you're so young and you're so advanced that it scares me, you know, that and nuclear weapons. So you guys are fabulous. Now, when are you guys playing again? Do you guys have a gig? Do you guys play other than the university? Anywhere around?
Well, one thing that happens here in St. Augustine that I facilitate is the UNF Jazz night that happens at Prohibition Kitchen.
Okay.
One of my favorite places to play at, period.
And when is that?
The last Wednesday of each month from 6 to 9. And it always features, it always features UNF students that currently attend the school or have previously attended the school.
And your groups could be what, 3 or more? The sky's the limit. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. And do you guys have any music recorded yet?
We actually do with a different horn player.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That's okay, they haven't graduated yet.
You still got the leverage on them. And so, soon to be released. All right. Once again, let's give them a hand, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we're coming with our stand-up comic.
Hi, my name's Dana. I own Sweet City Cupcakes, and we're located at 233 West King Street. We specialize in custom cakes and cupcakes. We use fresh and local ingredients and bake fresh daily. Each of our cupcakes is decorated with a unique look to complement the flavor. We have signature cupcakes such as the Marilyn, the Elvis, the I Love Lucy. We have a unique vintage look. Stop in and say hello. Have a cup of coffee and a delicious cupcake. Even better yet, take the box home to share with the family.
We have another young comic, Emily Penkala. And I'm going to let her do the damage.
What's up, friends? How are you? Hey, can you hear me on this? I feel like okay. Yeah, I feel like I can't even hear me on this. Hey, thanks for coming. This is really fun, isn't it? So a lot of times people will come up to me and they'll just like tell me whatever they're thinking about. You know, I don't know if you've experienced this. A lot of times it's in the form of like who you look like or what you look like, which that's never good. Like it's never good when someone comes up to you and tells you what you look like. But oftentimes it's in the form of like, oh my gosh, you look like a celebrity, or like you look like so and so. Like, oh my God, you look like my Aunt Joan, and you're like, who's that? Like, is that a compliment? I don't know what this means. Okay, but people keep coming up to me over and over again lately, and they keep telling me that I look like tired. That's what they're saying. It's funny because it's true, I guess. The laughter is always confronting because I'm just like, oh man, yeah, I should probably take a nap or something. But no, actually, I do look like one celebrity with a stipulation attached to it. When I wear a backwards hat, I look a little bit like Kid Rock. I don't mean to brag, but you know, we all. It's okay. She's like, oh, that's so sad. It's fine. No, but so even though I look like a sleepy Kid Rock, oftentimes something that happens to me is that my age gets misjudged. A lot of times people assume that I'm a lot younger than I am, which this joke is like, I think I got to retire it soon, because by now people are like, we can see your wrinkles. Like, you don't look young. But no, I don't have any like beauty regimens for you or like skincare routines other than never wash your face and never get 8 hours of sleep, because your dog has to take a dump every night between the hours of 3 and 5 a.m. I don't know what's going on. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to wake up one day looking like a rotten squash. What I'm saying, I don't take care of it. I don't know why it looks this good. Anyway. Recently this girl came up to me and she thought I was 18 years old. And I was like, is you crazy? Like, I don't look 18. Like, what kind of 18-year-olds you been hanging around with? Like, really stressed out 18-year-olds? Like, you see these fine lines? Like, no. In the same week, my friend invited me to her little sister's sweet 16 birthday party. And I was like, to be a chaperone, like, I'm not coming to that. I hate kids. Like, no. Like, I didn't even get invited to that when I was 16, okay? I was too weird. I know all you see now is a swan, but when I was 16, I was running around wearing bolo ties and water shoes, okay? I had a trick-or-treat bag for a purse. This is real, okay? I wasn't probably on the top of the list of like, hey, you know who we should invite to our cool party? Trick-or-treat bag, bolo tie, water shoe girl. Like, no, that wasn't a thing. I hear you guys get quiet. It's fine. I'm past that. I'm 32. It's fine. I'm fine now, okay? You can laugh. All right. I'm laughing. We're all laughing. This lady's a little bit sad for me, but that's okay. Anyway, the most recent thing is that I went to the gas station to buy beer, and those people, they're paid to check your ID. Okay, it's not weird for them to like ask for proof that you're old or whatever. So I went there, and the lady was like, she just like acted like real extra about it, like I was in some sort of like elaborate sting operation, you know? She was just like holding my ID, squeezing my ID, bending my ID, looking at me, looking at it, ooh, like all this stuff. And then she was just like, that says 88, like my year of birth. And I was like, yeah. Like, I'm damn near 32 years old. Do you think I'm like hanging out in my garage making fake IDs? Like, no, this, maybe I do look like that. I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, I have better things to do with my time. And I also want to say, like, I know that I look exactly like that ugly picture of myself that you're holding, okay? Because I was there when they took it from me, right? We've all been to the DMV, and it's all been the worst day of our life, right? So you go there, you wait around with snotty kids and whoever the hell else, and then they put you against a white screen. The lady took my picture, and the first thing out of her mouth was, did you want to take another one? And I was like, no. Like, that's just how I look. Like, what do you want me to do in the next, 10 to 15 seconds to make that look any better? You got, like, a makeup crew about to pop out of there? Like, no. Like, also, who's even going to see this? The police? Like, I have bigger problems if I have to, like, flash my, you know what I mean? That's fine. Okay, so if y'all heard about this phenomenon about tiny houses? Oh, yeah. God, yeah. Yeah. Oh, we know about that. All right. So I saw a tiny house once in real life, and it was exhilarating. But I'm referring to this show that's on like TLC or whatever called Tiny House World. I don't know if that's copyrighted, if I can talk about this. But anyway, everybody knows the show. Anyways, people cannot wait to live in a tiny house, right? They cannot wait to like store their socks in some drawers under some steps, They just like, they're all about it, right? So I was watching this episode of the show, and these people in this episode were going to be building a house in a van. And I was kind of like, why don't you just live in a van? Like, this just seems like a lot. Like, why do I got to sit on my couch and watch you live in a van? This is just, right? I don't know. But I have no life, so I kept watching, of course. And so I was watching it all unfold, and their budget for this house van was $40,000. And still, I was like, hey, man, not everybody can be poor like me, If you want to live in a van, do it. I'm going to sit here on my couch, as I said, and watch it happen. So I was on board with everything that they were doing to this van up until the point that it came to light that they were going to be building a loft for their toddler in the van. Because, like, is it just me, or is $40,000 a lot of money to sink into something that you're just going to drive off a cliff one day? because you're living in a van with a toddler. Like, that's not a good idea. Like, sometimes people choke up when I tell the joke and they're like, ooh, kid hater, ooh. But I'm just like, picture if there was like a loose toddler in the room right now. You'd be like, God, who brought that? Like, you know? And you're gonna live in a van with that? No. In a loft above you? If that thing like pees the bed, like, it's not good. It's not gonna be good. It's gonna be messy. It's gonna be stank and gross. All right. Onward from that. I'm not good at transitions, but let's see what I got. So actually, I do a lot of pet sitting. I don't know if you guys are familiar with pet sitting. Pet sitting is when someone comes up to you and then says something like, hey, you look like you can't afford a vacation. Did you want to watch my pets while I go on vacation? To which I say, I'll do it. Yep. That's an accurate read. I need the money. What's up? Okay. So a lot of times in the biz, pet sitter biz or whatever, we do what you call a meet and greet, where you go over to these people's house and like you learn about their pets and stuff. A lot of you guys are like, oh man, I thought a meet and greet was like when you meet the Backstreet Boys or something. No, not for me. That's when I go learn how to scoop cat poop out of a box and like where do they keep the food. Anyway, so I went to these people's house and they had like gotten this cat semi-recently. So she was like giving me the rundown on this cat. His name's Fred, no big deal. And she's like, yeah, well, we got him recently, so we're just still trying to like figure out like his deal, his routine. So she said, sometimes you'll come over and he'll want to go outside, but other times you'll come over and he'll want to stay inside. And I was like, yeah, it's a cat. Like, I didn't say that because I'm not a rude, but I was just like, oh, okay, And then she continues on and she's like, yeah, so you'll feed him and like sometimes he'll want to eat all his food right away, but other times he'll just like graze on it, throughout the day. And I was like, yeah, that's a cat. Here she goes again. Okay, so then you're going to come over and like sometimes he'll want to like snuggle you on the couch and other times he'll just want to like hide under the bed. And I'm like, it's a cat. I get it, okay? Like, cats do whatever they want all the time. That's what a cat is. I'm glad I came all the way over here for you to tell me what a cat does. I know what a cat does, okay? My best friend at the moment is a cat. His name's Steven. He lives on my sister's porch. I used to live with my sister. I don't live there anymore. I moved out, but I still go and see Steven like 3 to 5 times a week just to like catch up, Steven used to be like my therapist, and now, you're going through something. I'm like, let me just talk it out with Steven. Now I'm like, let me go talk to a room full of strangers, okay? And then like go, talk to Steven afterwards. But, so I'll leave you with this. You guys may have seen me over here eating some popcorn, right? Probably not. You're like, we've never seen you before in our life. But anyway, I found out recently that my dog has more self-control than me when it comes to eating. It's not hard. I eat like a garbage disposal. Like anything I see, I'm like, I want that, and I eat it. But I found this out because my dog had gotten into this giant bag of popcorn, and then I watched her eat it one piece at a time. Thank you for laughing. Okay, sometimes I tell that joke and people are just like, and? Like every day of their life, they're just like watching a dog eat popcorn. Like, no. But then I was thinking about it and I was like, man, I have never eaten popcorn one piece at a time. Normally I'm like just really going to town, like shoveling it in or like doing that gross licking out of the bag thing so I don't gotta even touch it. Just like, real slob style. But I was like, oh man, I actually did. There's one time that I ate one piece of popcorn. Where like earlier in the day I was doing all that gross stuff I was just telling you about. And then later on I went to bend down to pick something up and one piece fell out of my shirt. And I was like, oh cool. Only time I've ever eaten one piece of popcorn in my entire life. And that's all I've got for you guys. Let's bring your host back up here. Oh man. Oh, thank you.
Tell us, Emily, where can we see you?
Oh, do I talk into this? I will be at Jackie Knight's on Friday night, this, whatever this day this is, the 13th, Friday the 13th, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jackie. I mean, Emily. Jackie. All right, we'll be right back with two brief guests and our last guest. Be right back.
At Martinez & Associates, we can help you with many things. Number one is income for life throughout your retirement, which is very important. Number two would be Medicare choices, which are very confusing. Number three is a legacy for your loved ones. And finally, keeping you independent throughout retirement. My name is Tuli Martinez. Call this number. Y hablamos español.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. This is our slider. Our slider. Silence on the set, please. This is our slider little moment here where we bring people from the community. And I have there a Miss Leto. And I have her on the microphone, and she's here to talk about Pam. Tell us what Pam is.
Pam Jam.
Pam Jam.
So I belong to the Ancient City Poets who gather, there's a bunch of them back here today. And we gather the last Sunday of the month to read poetry here at the Corazon.
Right.
From 3 to 5. In March, we'll be doing Women's Month, and in April we'll be doing National Poetry Month.
Mm-hmm.
And we have partnered with Butterfield Garage Art Gallery, and we've hooked up 18 of the poets with 18 of the artists.
Wow.
And they are creating poetry based on the artwork and artwork based on poetry. And we are going to be bringing in musicians.
Also.
We are finishing up that work, and so any musicians that would like to be part of Pam Jam, there's a card outside. Give me a call. We will be previewing it Fall Arts 2020. We will have a special preview October 25th.
Okay.
On the Sunday, the last Sunday of the month in October when the poets read. And then the first inaugural Pam Jam will be at Butterfield Garage on November 14th.
All right.
From 5 to 9 p.m.
Okay.
And we would like everyone to come out and join in the jam.
And where on the website could we find this out?
You can go to our Facebook page and
It's
Google Pam Jam.
Pam Jam?
Look up Pam Jam.
Okay.
St. Augustine.
All
Pam
right.
Jam St. Augustine.
All right.
We are doing it this year, and then next year in 2021, we're going to be doing what's called Taking It to the Streets.
Okay.
Where we go into hospitals
All right.
and schools and nursing homes and other organizations
All right.
and do Pam Jam events with them.
All
We
right.
believe everyone has, a story to tell,
Okay.
a message, and
Mhm.
how do you want to share it? Do
Right,
you want to
right.
write a poem? You want to do a song, a
yeah.
dance, whatever?
Yeah.
So we're going to be.
So Pam means
you're
poets, artists, and musicians.
Artists and musicians
Jam.
spreading joy.
All right, so
throughout
go to
the
their
community.
website.
Thank you.
Okay, pass on the. Here I have my friend Ellie Grimes. Ellie Grimes is a musician. Oh my Lord, he's a lot of things. I've known him for a while. He's a wonderful soul, and he's one of those people who really loves where he lives here in St. Augustine, St. Johns County. I know he's done T-shirts for the river, St. John River. There you have one on.
St. John's River Life, yes.
Yeah, River Life. Also, he's done. He's written songs. So the reason I brought him here is because he wrote a song about the St. Johns River, but now he wrote a song about St. Augustine, and it's called
Pretty Little Old St. Augustine.
Pretty Little Old St. Augustine. And so he brought his Bluetooth so that we can hear 50 seconds of it. Go ahead and do what you need with the robot. Mm-hmm. Oh.
East coast of Florida, there's a quaint little town. Almost 500 years of history can be found. Every day's a new celebration. Oldest city in the new nation. Historical churches are everywhere. Find hope and a prayer. Never live until you see pretty little old St. Augustine. Spanish moss dance in an ocean
sample. Now, we can find this song on iTunes, is that correct?
It's on iTunes and Apple.
And Apple.
Yes.
Fantastic, our own little song. And I know you're so involved and you do so much. You're so active, and a lot of the profits you just share with the community, and I admire you for that. And
thank you very much.
I'm glad to call you friend.
Yes.
And keep this up. Keep this up.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having on the show, and I appreciate you just listening to it.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Ellie Grimes. Ellie Grimes. Look them up on Facebook. Ellie Grimes. All right. And we'll be back with our next guest, Mr. John Valdez. There it is, our commissioner.
At St. Augustine Distillery, we're part of a new generation of American craft distillers. Family owned and operated, we are committed to making the best possible spirits using local agriculture. Our distillers make everything by hand, from mashing and blending to distilling and tasting each and every batch. We distill and bottle everything we sell, making sure that the spirits are just right before barreling and aging. Bottled by real people, we love showing our guests not only what we do, but why we do it. We're passionate about educating our guests to not only what goes into each bottle, but how to make the best possible cocktails. We love St. Augustine, and thanks to your purchases, we're able to give back to the community and help local organizations each and every day.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
St. Augustine Distillery, handmade with pride in the nation's oldest city.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with John Valdez, and he has nothing to do with coffee, okay? Has nothing to do with
or
coffee.
rectankers.
Oh,
Don't do
okay.
tankers either. And I don't play music, and I don't tell jokes. I'm not very good at poetry either.
So what do you do?
Not a lot.
But I've known you for, the first time I met you, I was starting FirstCoast.tv, and I went to your lovely home, and at that time, you were commissioner, and I think there was an election at that time, and I just went to interview you briefly. Then you weren't commissioner for a while, and now you're commissioner, and now you're commissioner again.
Yeah, well, first time I walked for election, last time I ran, so it made a difference. So.
But I find your life fascinating in the sense that, wow, your family is a real Floridian family.
Yeah, on my mom's side and on my father's side, there are five or six generations in Florida. The Juan Valdez part actually came from about the turn of the century, and they were the cigar business, Garcia Vega. The lady on the box today is actually my great aunt.
Wow.
But most of them were a bunch of crackers that came down here after the Civil War to Florida, and God knows what they did, but they stayed here, and here I am. So.
Wow. So you grew up in the Tampa Clearwater area?
Yeah.
That was home for a long time?
Tampa General, 1948. Moved to Clearwater in 53, and that's where I went to school, and I stayed there until about 69 when I went to work overseas. So.
Wow. And you always were around the water and boats and marinas, and think because of your father was in construction, yeah?
Yeah, Dad was after the war he started a plumbing company, then he started building houses, and he started developing orange groves, and he started buying marinas and turning them into condominiums, and like that's what happened then. But yeah, I grew up in the construction business, and
wow.
So when I came here, I decided I was going to stop raping and pillaging and become a recycler, so I got into redoing old buildings more than new construction. So
well here in St. Augustine, you've been involved with about 130 structures. Somehow.
I think last count, we came up during a HARB meeting years ago. We've actually, my business in the last 30 years has done significant work to nearly 140 structures older than 50 years old within the city limits of St. Augustine.
Right.
So.
Yeah, one of your
a lot of old buildings.
One of your projects in the 90s was the St. Francis House.
St. Francis Inn.
I mean, Inn.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, that was.
That's from the 1700s.
Yeah, late 1700s. We shut that down for 90 days and worked 24/7s on it. It was kind of fun because we worked a graveyard shift, and I had guys that would refuse to work on the third floor of that building because it was so haunted.
It's haunted.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I mean,
so
like
what would they...
tools cutting on and off, and people tapping you on the shoulder and stuff like that. It was good stuff.
Okay, but I think that'd be fun, especially on Halloween night.
Well, the interesting thing about buildings is buildings kind of accumulate the energy of the people who have been in them.
I believe that.
And there are
very
some
much.
buildings I go into and I can't wait to get out of.
Same here.
And there are other buildings to go into I just want to sit down and stay.
I was in Spain once, and I walked in a church in the suburb of Madrid, and I wanted to cry. It was so crushing in there. And I remember tapping on the priest who was in the confessional, and I speak Spanish, so it was and I asked him, I told him, something happened here, and you have to tell me. And he thought I was strange. And eventually he opened the doors, and you could see the neighborhood of Madrid, you know, and he said, a long, long time ago, when Spain was in the war with the Moors, there was nothing here but this church. And El Cid, Mio Cid, came with all his nobles, crowded in the church, and the army on the outside, and they knew they were all going to die that day. And what you felt is that last mass where they know they'll never go home, or the bodies will never be the same. And when he said that, it was like, it just
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. So when you say that, absolutely.
The thing I always loved about restoration and renovation work is, you know, I'm in the business of taking people's imagination and their dreams and making them real by creating buildings. And doing restoration work, you get to reach back centuries and touch people's hands that did the work, and they're long gone. I mean, maybe you can find out who owned the building if you do the research. But the people that actually did the work, their energy is still there. And I can actually recognize workmanship. I don't know who that was, but I can tell who did that, and I see it again in another building, and I go, okay, they worked on both these. And buildings do accumulate the energy that's in them. And,
but
you know, it's fascinating, and you all feel it to some degree, because you know you do. Sometimes you don't want to admit it, but it's there. And it's magic, it really is. And
because you worked with a lot of international companies, so you were traveling all around the world, a lot of time in the Middle East. You told me the craziest story in Lebanon. You were there, and suddenly the Israeli jets come in. The country's on the verge of a civil war, and you're trying to make it to the airport.
That was in 1977 or 78. I worked overseas for many years. I started in my late teens working in Asia, and dropped out of school, bored, went to work, and was lucky enough to be able to do that because I started as a plumbing apprentice when I was 12. So by the time I was 18, I was a master plumber. And anyway, I got a job working overseas. But you know, after Southeast Asia and a little time in the Central America, I ended up in the Middle East. And what you're speaking of is I worked for a company called Saudi Research and Development. It was owned by a guy named Ray Farone, who was the 7th richest man in the world at the time, and grew up with all the Saudi princes, and eventually Fahad, who became king, was like his stepbrother. But anyway, we used to renew our igamas, which is our work visas, in Beirut. Later, we switched to Cairo after the war broke out. Civil War started. So we had flown into Beirut with a couple of engineers from Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, which was the architectural firm we were using out of Chicago to build a Hyatt hotel in Jeddah. And we landed at the airport and drove down the Corniche and to the hotel we were staying at, which was on the Christian side.
Okay,
the city was partitioned. And to get there, you drove through these very large Palestinian refugee camps. And anyway, I woke up about 3 in the morning to all hell breaking loose, because it was the first time the Israelis had come across the border en masse to and at that time they were battling the PLOs before Hamas and all that.
Too,
And anyway, we quickly discovered that we were in the middle of what was going to look like turning into a real civil war uprising. And so we decided that we needed really to get to the airport, because believe it or not, the airport was still functioning, which made no sense. But then again, that's what happens. So we went down to the lobby and tried to rent a taxi cab. And taxi cab says, no, we're not going over there. So I ended up making a deal, and I bought a cab. And so we jumped this little Toyota, and I'm driving. We're going down back towards the airport. And I had 2 guys, one of the guy next to me, and then Bill in the back seat, who was a guy from Texas. He was a drilling engineer. And he's there, he's got his camera out taking pictures. I said, for God's sakes, put the camera down, because we're going to, boom, hit in the back by a truck, and a truck ran us off the road. They grabbed us and bound us up and threw us in the back of the truck, and off we went. So I spent the next quite a few hours sitting like this, and with this gentleman having a conversation with me about KBG and Mossad and CIA and all kinds of things. And I'm going, look, I'm just from Florida. I'm a plumber. Anyway, after a little while, this guy came in, and his name was Robert, was Achman. He was educated at UCLA, and he said, look, we know you're not CIA, we know you're not Mossad, and for God's sake, KBG and all that stuff. We just want your boss to give us a lot of money here, and we've talked to your boss, and that's all set up now, so we're going to be taking you to the airport in a little while. So we took us to the airport, threw us out. There was one flight left out. Now, my boss was sending the jet for us, one of his jets. He had a whole bunch of them, and but we wanted to leave pretty badly. And there was this flight going out. The last commercial flight going out was Pakistani International Airlines. Please inform Allah is what we used to call it. And we ended. Yeah, they actually used to pull gliders when they flew on Hajj. So they come out of Karachi, they'd have gliders, the people behind them, and they'd land with gliders with Hajis. That's another story. But anyway, we landed in Karachi and called the office and said, divert the jet from, send it over here. And anyway, that was that story.
I guess they were saying, what are you doing in Karachi?
Huh?
I guess they were shocked that you were in Karachi?
They were a little confused, but...
But that's
things happen. It was a wonderful time to be there because
I know it's crazy. Yeah, you have an incredible life, and now how did you end up in St. Augustine?
I don't know.
What brought you here?
Actually, I don't know. I always saw myself as I always kind of as a kid wanted to. I loved reading books, and I always wanted to live a life that people would want to read my book, and living and working overseas was perfect. But having said that, I did that for 20 years. And the problem when you live that kind of life where you're traveling from job to job, country to country, it's very transient. You never have a place. You never become part of a place. And you'll be talking to someone and you'll be talking about something, you realize the person standing next to you, you've only known them for 3 days, they have no idea what you're talking about. So you become a shadow in a sense. And which I was fine with for the most part. Then I ended up, long story, I had my own company based in Jeddah with a Saudi and British partner, and I came home to handle the recruiting for 2 projects we had in the Taif area, which was 2 summer palaces for minor princes. And we were building in the Azir region up above Mecca, which is about 100 clicks from Jeddah. Anyway, long story short, and I came home to handle the purchasing and marketing, or purchasing and liaise with the architectural firm and the recruiting. And I sort of came to the conclusion, a realization that I had this family that I hadn't seen a lot. And they were getting older, and I was starting to lose them. And I decided that I was going to spend more time home. And of course, as that time kind of stretched out, my partner said, yo, it's time to come back to work. We know you're working over there, but we need you back here. And I went, well, and they finally threatened to buy me out. And I said, okay.
All right.
And we came to a settlement, and I was in Saudi Arabia. It was interesting. Back in those days, you didn't have no compete clauses or anything. When you left a company and you were important to them, they just blackballed you for 3 or 5 or 6 years. You couldn't come back into the kingdom.
Right.
And part of my separation was 3 years. If I could only come back working for the company. So anyway, long story short, I ended up in St. Augustine because I wanted to be near my family, but not too close. I wanted a major port facility up the road, a major international airport, so it kind of fit. And at the time, Ann and I were together, and she worked for British Airways, so she could get in and out easily. So I ended up here, and 33 years ago, and I remember sitting around going, what have you done? It was such, the interesting thing about it, in the Middle East, you hear the term inshallah, bukra inshallah, or bad bukra inshallah, which is poor Arabic for maybe tomorrow, Allah willing, or maybe the day after. I thought when I came back to the States, I would have to kind of speed up a bit. I came to St. Augustine. I had to slow down a bit. This is 33 years ago. The sidewalk rolled up at 5 o'clock. It was a sleepy little town.
A sleepy little town.
And but anyway, what happened is I discovered a place. And finding the place, I kind of filled in what I had been missing for all those years.
Well, I've been to your home, and it has wonderful energy.
Oh, thank you.
So whoever builds on that home will know that you were there somehow. You know?
Oh, thank you.
And it's great having you as commissioner. You like the job of commissioner?
Yes, I do. I mean, it's government. I spent 22 years on boards here, so I was familiar how it works. And government's a fascinating thing. Coming from a private sector where I live or die by a pen stroke every day, and if I make a mistake, I write a check, and if I get it right, I get checks. Government's a much different animal, and I find it to be very frustrating at times, but I recognize that it is the way. I mean, if you don't have a democracy, you don't have government, what you have is anarchy, chaos, and you have dictatorships and terrible things. And I know them firsthand. I've lived in those places. And I'd much rather have a slow-moving, cumbersome form of government. And the most important thing is people have to vote and make it work, which sometimes you don't do a good job of, than have the alternative. Being a commissioner, unlike being on the boards where you're proactive and you're getting stuff done, the commission spends a lot of time back on its heels being reactive and just going through and following procedure. We aren't nearly as proactive as I'd like to be, but we do have an excellent professional city government here and a fine city manager, and they do. And one thing about our city government, I didn't realize this, private sector, I know how to take a company and make it successful by getting every bit of energy you can out of it. And you do that by treating your people right and getting the right people. But having said that, our city government is a lean, very, very efficient. It's almost a private sector thing. It's shocked me. We don't have 4 people standing in line to do anything. We have one person doing 2 people's jobs oftentimes, which is problematic. So I'm pretty impressed with our city government. City commissioner, I kind of wish I'd started it younger. I'm 72 now, and I won't run again. Having said that, I wish I had done it earlier because I see where to get anything happen, it takes. We need term limits, but they have to be a reasonable term limit, you know. In city government, I think it should be no more than 3 terms, 12 years. I think no one should serve more than 12 years in any position, to be honest with you.
I'm glad you're there, and I'm glad
Pleasure.
you came to the show. And wow, I could talk to you. I mean, I remember when we first talked, we talked in this building. We talked forever. It was a wonderful conversation, and I'm so glad you said yes to the show. And
thank you for inviting me. I can't see you out there, but
thank you
for listening, and thank you for having me.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. That's yours, my friend.
Oh,
Take
thank
that
you.
with you. You take a picture right here. Just going to take a picture right there. All right, people, one more time. The UNF JE1 Jazz Combo.
Thank you.
Like my mama would say, cooking with oil, baby, you're cooking with oil. Hey, this is great. I mean, wow, what a treat tonight, what a treat. I want to thank all our guests, you know, Mr. John Valdez. I want to thank Danny Gottlieb and J.B. Scott for being here, Lisa Lockhart for being here, Emily Penkala for being here, the two sliders we had, you know, promoting Pam and Ellie Grimes' song. I mean, that's what the show is all about. I hope you have a great show. We have another great show next week. See you next week, and we love you, we love you.